NRL Fantasy round 3, buy, hold, risk it, and sell. And guys, there's a lot of players on this list. We'll see if we do make the hour mark like we did last week. Hopefully not, because that was a mammoth and needed plenty of water. But if you don't hear a player on this list, hopefully it's just a mistake that I've missed it. But if not, likely a hold or a clear sell. So Hosking's not on this list, for example. He's a clear sell with a longer term injury. Guys like Edwards, I think you can potentially hold, but at that price point at this stage, I think it's worth moving on. Anyone that's sort of 2+ weeks, could be more than that too. They are usually a sell. We saw with Cleary last year. We thought he was just a couple week hold, a 3-week hold, and it wasn't to be. So at this stage of the season, I'd be selling those guys, and we could spend plenty of time on Mr. Payne Haas with 81 and 85 across the 2 weeks, which is absolutely ridiculous. And he's now priced at sort of a 65, 66 there, and will continue to make some cash. And very clearly here in the top 100, 90 of the top 100 do own him. Makes a lot of sense, given it's only been 2 weeks and he has been the best scorer. But if in the top 5K, it's a 45% sort of setup there for him, which isn't crazy at all, and should be someone that is on the target list. Would you go Isaiah Yeo to him, Jamie? No, I wouldn't. And we're very much hoping for a bounce back for Isaiah in this week coming up. And we're going to go Payne Haas into Isaiah in our discussions. What we need to look at with Payne Haas is the offload numbers, basically. The tackle break numbers we have seen in different seasons. He has 9, 10, 6, 7, 8, all those types of numbers, which are really, really cool, right? It is the offload numbers that are pretty ridiculous. And 4 and 7 across the 2 first weeks. You're looking at other games last year where he went 1, 0, 0, 2, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2. And then he has one game there where he had 5 in 2024 in the last game of the year, and he got 91. So if we think the offloads will continue, and the way it's looking right now, he's looking to offload more than he was last year. The meters gain numbers, they are improved a little bit for most weeks, but there are other weeks in there where he went 235, 207, 180. We saw in 2023, 240. Some really high numbers in some of those weeks there in 2023. Last year was a little bit lower. He even had 186 in the 56 minutes that he had in round 2 last year before the injury. It's still something you do need to consider is the injuries that Payne Haas does have in his game. And if you're buying him, you're fully expecting and hoping that he hits a 70 average going forward. A little bit of value on that starting price, and he kind of hangs somewhere near the 900k or a little bit above. He's definitely a good purchase this week. Is he a must-have? No. The only guys we want to be targeting that are must-haves were and are the Jamie Humphreys of the world that can go up a tremendous amount of cash and score really well also. Humphreys was able to average 70, 72 over the first 2 weeks and make 150k, and Payne Haas has gone up 55, which is awesome, but it's also something that it can help you win the season, that's for sure, getting these great scores and these price rises. But in terms of must-have, Payne Haas has an average over that 65 mark in his career, and you're banking on the fact that these offloads, they stay in his game. I definitely think he should average around the 3 to 4 offloads per, which is pretty crazy. And we saw, the big 9 tackle breaks, the big offloads, no missed tackles, which we hardly see miss a tackle, but had a turnover in that first game as well. With a try assist, so that kind of number won't continue. He won't have 9 tackle breaks every game, but I can see it sitting around the 6 mark for tackle breaks, and I can see it sitting between the 3 and the 4 mark for offloads. And you're looking at that there, and that's 30 in that. If you're looking at somewhere between around that 28 to 32 tackles, there's another 30 to go along with some meters gain and very limited on the negatives. I don't see there being many games where he goes over 60 minutes, whereas last year you saw a bunch of those types of games where he went 59, 62, into the 70s at times, and that's probably where the slight worry is the minutes. He's playing incredible. He's in a different style of game that he's playing, and all of that is awesome. But there are worries there that this PPM has to stick somewhere in that like 1.3, 1.4 mark, where it's currently at 1.6. If it sticks there, then he's going to be a 70 guy. If it is a little bit lower at 1.25, then he's easily at his price point and will be a great purchase still, but won't be the must-have astronomical that it can be. It's really hard to get him in your side at 880, so that's where it's a worry for teams like myself who have spent money at Isaiah Yeo to get that consistency in that mid-60s to try and go to him. I think he's a good purchase if he can get there in other ways. I wouldn't push you away from that. It's very, very tough to see him averaging anything less than that 64, 65 where he's priced at, and is a great captaincy option on a week-to-week basis. Payne Haas, an incredible pick. Now let's talk about Isaiah Yeo. Now Isaiah, we went through him and basically showed that he's never scored under 40 in good minutes since 2019 when he was playing in the back row. So if it happens again, I will be absolutely flabbergasted against a really good team in Melbourne, where he has scored well against them. He had 70 in round 1 last year against the Storm, which was good. He had 82 and 80 minutes in the back end of last year against them as well. Did have 4 tackle breaks in the offload. And the worry here with him is he had, last week, no tackle breaks, but he has had no offloads across the last 2 games. And meters gained similar or slightly lower than normal. And those tackle numbers, obviously, at 25, pretty ridiculous. But there are games where he has 32, 35, 38, 30, 39, but he can usually get it up there in other ways in offloads and tackle breaks, and he just does it across the board. So Isaiah Yeo, a very easy hold this week. Let's just hope he goes back to mid-60s. He doesn't lose too much cash, and if you want to buy him next week, then that's great. I think that would be the play if you don't own him, is to see how this week works, and if he's back to sort of normal programming and he looks like he wants to get involved and everything's happening, then happy days. But outside of that, he's a hold, or leave at the moment in round 3. Expect him to go back to better scoring. People mentioned the score in round 1, if he didn't have the try, would have been about a 52. I completely understand that, but these types of games are in his wheelhouse. He has try assisting games. This one he had 3 missed tackles, and he had 4 in round 2. And look at the missed tackle numbers all of last year. It took him all the way through until round 4 to have 2, and then round 12 to have 2, and he didn't have one game last year where he went 3 missed tackles or more, and he's gone back-to-back games with 3 tackles or more. So that's not normally the way that he plays it, and hopefully it goes back to the mean. If it doesn't, then we'll start to panic a little bit as owners, me myself included, an owner of Isaiah Yeo, and hopefully Haas comes back to like 70 and Isaiah Yeo goes back up into the 60s, and we don't miss out too much for owning him over Payne Haas, and it sticks at like the 40 odd or 50 or whatever, the 50 odd, what is it, 60 something, the points, the difference so far across the first 2 weeks. Kalyn Ponga at 768k, he has had an incredible start, 62 into 82, and I do expect a good game again on the weekend. The trouble is the buy. I've got a few guys on this list, and guys for the buy, hold, sell, I'm going from highest price to lowest price. If you do want to click around and go to certain price points for players you want me to talk about, then sweet, go ahead and do that. All I'm asking for you is if you can go check out the podcast, give it a 5-star review. That would be awesome. I'm trying to grow the podcast this season, and it's been cool to see that growth over the last few years. It's all consistent. The audio is awesome. So big thanks for doing that. Hit subscribe on YouTube if you are here as well. That's a big, would be a big appreciative thing for you to do. For me, Ponga. Great scores, the buy is the problem. He's playing 7 and a bit of 1 in attack. You can see there the goals there. He hasn't had to kick too many. They're defending pretty well. They're not scoring a tremendous amount of tries, but he's getting involved in that attack, which is great. 2 line breaks in round 1, 3 try assists last week, kicking in general play. He's got 4 dropouts. He's getting out of the in goal. Yes, he had 4 errors in round 1, and that's where the 62 is, but he's someone that will be one of the best players in the game. Do you want to buy him now at 768, or do you wait until after the buy, where they do have the Doggies, Tigers in those 2 games following that buy? So Ponga, a really interesting selection, hard to jump into, and I think personally I'd be going for like Greg Marzu at his price point before I would go for Ponga at this stage of the season, right before their bye. Okay. Connor Watson's next up at 7.31. He's got the mid and the hooker duel and scored a 90 last week, so has a really low break even. We should see him move pretty quickly up to the 770, 780 mark, and that'll get him priced at around the 58. That's the way he's going. That's the way he's scoring. And if he can get 80 minutes and hit 49 tackles a game, there's 47 with that one missed tackle, 47 in base, which is great. And they have a couple of nice matchups coming up. Warriors will be fun. Titans into Bunnies before he gets to the Broncos and Penrith. But we've seen him have really good base against good quality opposition. 3 tackle breaks and 6 tackle breaks. If he's moving to that little bit of a hybrid role at 13, that's where you're going to see the run meters, like you saw last week, and the tackle breaks. He didn't have an offload last week, but gets involved in try savers and will get involved in some type of attack, whether it's tackle breaks, offloads, assists, or tries. So a great player to pick up if you have anywhere in the 700s. I'd target him first and then go for a couple of the other guys that I'm talking about behind Watson here. You've got those top guys in Yeo, in Payne Haas, I almost forgot him. And then Ponga, they're up in that near 800 bracket. And then for the bracket here, 730 to like 680, Connor Watson is a very high priority first. You've got Tino up next at 722, priced at the 54 mark now, and a terrific 74 with a try in round 1, 7 tackle breaks, 2 offloads. I think he will continue to have the odd tackle break, the odd offload, and that will be a part of his base. And I can see him being near the 55 to 60 mark once he moves into some more minutes. If he can get closer to that 60 minutes, then I think the way the game is structured this year and what it was last year it gives him a really good platform to get some type of attacking stat. And he looks great, just as good as he did before he was away with the injury. And good to see him, obviously, with the ACL recovery, he can rest a lot of his other issues and he looks fit and firing. So an exciting guy to own. If you want to go for him, I wouldn't push you away from it, but there's definitely other pressing guys that you can target when Tino has been, he has been up a little bit in price. 793 he got to at the end of 2023 with, he's really, really good scoring. But he's also a guy that, he has that little bit of upside, but he's only done that for the one season at this stage. So that's Tino for now. Probably can leave him out of your fantasy squad at this point. Jermaine Hopgood, a very easy hold this week. He's lost a little bit in price from the 743. So he's lost two price points from being at a 56 down to the 55, 56 down to the 53, 54, which is a position that's great. He had really good minutes in both weeks, 72 and 64 minutes, and it's going to come to a head and he's going to have a really good score at some point. The next sort of 3 weeks, I can't see them getting absolutely demolished. They have to improve a little bit, and Hopgood will be part of that. He didn't have offloads last week, but he did in turnover tackles. He had more tackles, less run meters, so each week will be different for him. The minutes are there. I think he's a very easy hold, and he's not owned by a lot of people. So if he starts to score really well, he can't really go much worse than the last 2 weeks. And he hit exactly what he's priced at with a 54 last week, and I'm expecting bigger games to come. So Hopgood, a very simple hold, in my opinion, this week. Jayden Campbell, 710k for him. He's someone on my priority list still, even after the really poor effort last week from his team. And the display wasn't great. The continuity, the work side to side through the middle, they got dominated there as well, with just sort of Tino holding the flag there. And poor footy statistics, haven't put his 46 up after the update. But the big win with Jayden Campbell, and what you need to look at with him, guys, is his kick meters. So you look at 5/8 across 2024, should be the big one, make it nice and simple for him. You see 168 kick meters, all the way up to 400 last week in a game where they had very little go forward and the other team had the ball plenty. So you're adding there 230 kick meters, which is over 7 points of value that you're adding to his normal game. he's got the goals. You see he had 2.8 goals per game. He got 4 on the weekend. I think that'll be pretty standard. There'll be a team that can score points in bunches, and he can get some goals. Run meters at 97 in that time at 5'8". He averaged 57 across those games, and he's priced at 53 now with the fullback and the half duel, and the fullback position's really tough. And if you're adding 7 kick meters onto that current fantasy average, it's a 64.5, which is pretty crazy. And I don't expect him to average 64.5, but I think anywhere near the 60 mark is pretty gettable. When a 46 in that last game was very much in base. He didn't have a perfect game by any stretch. 20 tackles I think he got up to with 2 missed tackles, a couple offloads to ground, 1 tackle break, and that's what they've got. I think only just the 1 offload they've got him there for. But he had 2 errors. He had 88 run meters. He had the 400 kick meters, no attacking stats, 4 goals, and picked up 46. So if he gets the odd try assist, if he can get a try, if he can get an offload or so to hand, get a couple more tackle breaks, which we expect from him, you quickly see him going to the mid to high 50s, and he's a really good purchase. And he's definitely someone I'm contemplating this week, and I've been talking for a few weeks that as soon as I can get Campbell, I would like to. They have a really solid run coming up. Knights are defending pretty well, and they've got a really tough left-hand side coming at him. Then you've got Crichton running at him the following week. So there's definitely a few worries around that. But in attack, he should still be able to deliver. There's definitely some worries coming into this week, but I still think he'll deliver in the long term. Coming into Dolphins, St. George, Canberra, Cowboys, there's no clear demolition job coming against them, and we know that they can score points, especially at home. Those dry track weather games, he can be a really good guy to own for sure. Dylan Lucas has dominated the first 2 weeks, 57 and 66. Some people ask, can I still get him this week? Yes, for sure. I think it's easy to wait as well. If you're struggling a little bit in center or edge, then him in your side missing next week can be tough, but still definitely a guy that you can easily hold and easily buy. I think his priority eventually, is it after this week? Is it this week? Every option is yes. I think it's fine to do it either way. Once the buy is done, he plays all the games up until the final major buy, which is absolutely ridiculous and is why I started with him. And I think he's a great guy to own all year. So there's probably never a bad time to buy him. Just be aware of next week and what you need for your side. Okay. Tedesco got a 58 against the Panthers, which is great news. He hasn't scored a try yet, but he had 3 try assists. Still running the footy well, but he's at 161 and 154. I think there'll be games where that does and can increase. Does he need to do that every week from here on? Probably not. Does he have some nice matchups coming up? And do you need a wing fullback? Yes. Warriors, Titans, Rabbitohs. But then it is Broncos and Penrith after they just got spanked by Broncos as well. So Teddy priced at 51. I think is a really solid buy this week if you want to. If you need a wing fullback, that's sweet. Otherwise, I think it's fine to leave him out as well. I'm personally not going to jump on, but I think it's fine. Barnett, look, if you can get him to Payne Haas, completely understand. Anyone else, it's a tough one. He got the minutes last week, and he's had 1 tackle break and no offloads across the first 2 weeks. So I personally expect that to increase. He's not a big tackle break guy overall, apart from when he had that purple patch. He was starting to make a bunch in that post-origin type of mid to post-origin type of landscape. And he had some offloads during that time as well. So you can't expect that to stay out of his game. And his meters gained have been really, really low also. So I expect that to increase. Just had a slow start. So you do need to go right up, I think, to one of the better players right now in Payne Haas. Or you do leave. Yeah, I don't know how you can go. You could downgrade. Sorry, guys. Sorry, throat's going. You could downgrade, but also, holding's fine. Downgrading's fine. Upgrading to Haas would be best. So however you can make that work would be the play. All right, Beau Fermor, 683k, had a terrific first game. Hit a 69 or 70 they've got down here. 1 try assist for a 70. 2 turnover tackles, 3 offloads. That won't happen on the reg. You see, hardly offloaded last year. He had 1 game of 2, and the rest was 0 or 1. So a little bit of an inflated score. Really good point that Nicky made, and I think he'll talk about it further in his video that he's making later tonight, is that you're buying Beau Fermor as a guy that's probably between 50 and 55 in his scoring on a regular basis. We've seen that from him. He'll have his up games like that as 70, and he'll have his high 40s, mid 40s, 30 odds, mid 50s. You'll have a lot of those types of games. So buying Fermor would be similar to Lucas in that you just kind of lock in a guy that has a good schedule coming up of no buys and will do a job for you. If you're chasing points, he's an easy one to chase. If you're chasing cash gains, he's probably not the guy at this point. Pretty simple with Beau Fermor. Solid pick for sure. Had to mention Kaylee Rowe, just such a dominant force last week against the Cows. He comes up against the Bunnies this week, who he should be able to do well against also. Then he probably goes back to mid-40 scores for a little bit. Canterbury, Canberra, Manly, Newcastle. When he's going to be priced after this week, you'd imagine near the 50 mark. It's probably harder to buy, but if you like fun picks, if you've started with him like a few people have, then he's awesome and he's a big point of difference. So I had to point him out for sure. Keanu Keeney at 633k. He is a jet. We know that. He got a try assist out of nothing last week. Picked up a try saver as well. And this is the worry with someone like Keeney in a team that can be a bit hit and miss, is that he can have good games and still score 33. He only had the one error. Yes, he had 3 missed tackles because they were pretty poor. We need him up in the 200 plus meters gained. He'll have 6, 7, 8 tackle breaks and hopefully a try, and you'll see him back in the mid 50s. I think he's hard to purchase this week, just with a lot of the other options and not seeing Titans playing really well. If there is a Titan for you to buy, it's one of the two guys in Tino or Beau, or it's Jayden Campbell. Pretty simply, in my opinion. Reece Walsh comes in 47 into a -1. Really high break even. Should score well against the Cowboys, but they also put on 50 against Roosters and he only got 47. So he should go back to basics this week and he'll probably score a mid-50 score. Is that worth it priced at 47? Probably not. If he has -1 in his game, I can't see us doing it this week. He'd have to be priced into the mid-5s, I think, for it to be worth it overall. He could come out and score well this week, but he's going to be priced about 45 after this week. Can we see him going 50 plus without a lot of general kick meters like we saw a lot of last year? Probably not. So that's Walsh. Let's go to Fisher Harris at 620. You saw the minutes last week of 58 and almost a 1 PPM. His PPM's been great, near the 1 mark for the Warriors. He's working hard defensively, which sometimes he didn't have to do for the Panthers, and he's running over 100 meters a game, which is great. He had an offload, he had a tackle break last week, which was good. And I do expect him to be an early to mid 50 scorer, and in that scenario, close to 10 points of value. So I had to mention him. I think he's a good one to have a look at this week as well, if you want someone in that 620 price range. Fletcher Sharp, we talk about him. We'll talk about Greggy Marzu as well. But Fletcher at 599, we've seen him come out and really put the sword through the Tigers and the Dolphins with a decent amount of attack. And we saw his tackle numbers last week, 21 for 1, was great. Run meters are there, the offloads and the tackle breaks are there, and some attacking stats. And he's going to need that every week to be a good scorer. Reminds me a lot of how AJ Brimson is going to play, and he does have the bye next week. So it's hard to purchase him at 600, priced at 45, knowing that he needs attacking stats each week, and harder teams are coming up. That's Fletcher. A solid one if you want him, for sure. Cameron Munster with his Maroons shirt there in his photo. We're priced at 44 for him. He had the 53 in round 1 against the Eels. He didn't have to, he got a couple of try assists and 3 line break assists. We know he can score pretty well against the good teams as well. And you see, last year it wasn't too great in the back end when he wasn't well against the Panthers with the 37. But in previous years when he's feeling a bit better, 53 is good, 46 as well. So he's not a clear target against a good team this week. Cameron Munster at 597, but some people will ask about him, so I wanted to throw him in there. A solid hold, probably not a big buy. Corey Horsburgh, still a really good purchase this week at 594. It's gone 57 and 58 the first two. Tackle numbers haven't been high yet, and they've been attacking a lot. So when it is a closer game and they defend a bit, he'll add those tackle numbers to his game, and he'll get back into the sort of the mid-30s to 40 mark in those good minutes. But at the moment, the 52 minutes was a bit of a weird one. They didn't throw him back on in the end, and they're going to look after him, seems like, closer to sort of Tarpanay 55 minutes, with the odd game pushing a little bit higher. So with Hosking out as well as Tarpanay this week, I'm expecting some good minutes closer to the 60 mark. And going forward, PPM near 1, priced at 44, he should be in the mid-50s comfortably. Ryan Papenhuyzen, 562, similar to the Munster one, but Munster's a little bit of a safer pick. So if I've said no to Munster, we're saying no to Papenhuyzen this week, even with the 70. Again, it was against a really tough, really poor side. So Papenhuyzen in a good spot to do well, just not this week, I don't think. So probably not the week to run out and purchase Ryan Papenhuyzen. Greg the Leg, 544k, offloading at will, and had 10 tackle breaks, 6 offloads last week. If he keeps up the offloads, he'll be a 50s guy, priced at 40. That's great. They have a pretty solid run coming up. Still, even with the buy coming up, Greg is the guy at this price point with the buy that you can purchase. The others, I find it difficult. So if you need a wing fullback in general for this week, sweet. If you're upgrading from Yongi, whatever, that's fine. But be aware that you need to cover him next week as an out in general, and also out wing fullback. Paul Alamotti, just had to mention him because I think he's going to improve this year. He looks great. He has had 2 tries, a try assist, and 3 line breaks though, for his 48 average in the first couple of weeks. They haven't played that great either, and I think as it starts to open up a bit, like you've got Melbourne this week, but Bunnies, Cows, Dolphins over the next 4, I think he's going to have a good season. I think he'll finish out the year around the 600k mark. So if you want to get him now, you can hold all season. Should do a good job. Just wanted to mention him at 525k, along with someone like Selwyn Cobbo, who I didn't throw in there as yet, at 546k. He is a guy that is going to need attack. He's got 4 tries in 2 weeks, just the 1 line break, so not crazy with that one, but he's averaging 40 and a half, priced exactly according to that. With dual position is good. There will be games where he has bigger efforts without as many missed tackles for sure, and errors. Like he's had 7 missed tackles, 4 errors across the first 2 games as well. So I think he can go the 45 type of range, but is that worth it at 41 for a winger? Probably not. Yes, he's in a good team. You know, people are asking about Arthur's as well, who we'll get to, but yeah, there's some worries around someone like that at that price point. Draft Skelton, we've seen 2 really good games from him, 38 and 49, both with a try and a line break. 5 tackle breaks in each of those. Good meters gained, some kick defusals as well. Skelton, I think you're going to get a mid-40s average out of him. Priced at 38, that's sweet. They have had some easier clashes for sure. And their run of games is not too difficult at all. So I think you can get it, but do you want to spend 5-10k on a winger? Exactly like I just said. Maybe not. Tom Starling, 508k. I love him as a purchase this week. I should have got him last week personally, but you know, 2 line breaks across the first 2 games, a try. He hasn't had to have the massive tackle numbers that we've seen him have in previous hooker stints. Like he went 52, 54, 55, 48, and 49 tackles in that first 5 game stretch when he started hooker in 70 or 80 minutes last year. And he had less run meters. So they weren't in a great position. They were closer games. They weren't dominating, apart from that one against the Rabbitohs, but he still had the good tackle numbers. The worry here would be that maybe he's just being used a bit more in attack and not getting that base in defense. But 2 tackle breaks, 1 offload. He's had turnover tackles in both games as well. So there are a few things, a few red flags to worry about. His meters gained are higher than what we've seen in a lot of his games. He should be around the 70 mark like last week. The first week he had the line break, which helped him out to that 51 score. He's priced at 38 though, and I think it's very easy to see him go near the 50 mark, given when he's played hooker over the last few years. If you look at 2024, it's a really good spot. Let's even if you go just at 2022, when he got his other real opportunity, it's 51.4 in 70 minutes. In 2023, he just got the 155 minute game with lots of missed tackles. But 2024 was 50 as well in 73 minutes. So you could easily expect him to go near the 48, which would be 10 points of value Owen Paddy's not going to steal too many minutes off him as yet, and he should play good minutes this week with a few injuries as well. Starling, a good pick this week at 508. I do think it's the last chance to get him with that lower break even, and he's going to be near that 40 price point next week. But there are a couple of red flags with it. But overall, he does get some type of attack. He has the ability to go well defensively. So Starling, a good purchase this week. Matty Nicholson, all right. We see him score lots of tries. I think he's 18 tries in 45 games in England. And he came here and went well against Goz on that left-hand side. And Ben Hunt. So congrats to him on that one. 82 and 65 minutes is wild. Just had the one missed tackle. He had 2 turnover tackles. Hardly ran the footy at 55 metres. Was wild to have 2 tries and also 7 tackle breaks. So a lot of them were on the tries that he scored. And there are going to be negatives that come out of this for sure. 33 tackles is great. Also in 65. I personally think he's a good purchase. Can we get him to hit a 45 to 50 average over the next 6 to 8 weeks? I think he can. And in that scenario, he would make you 150 upwards of 175k, which would be great. Is there a world where he makes 100k and scores fairly well for you? Yes. Can he have the odd 80-point game again? Maybe. I think he can definitely go in the 60s with 1 try or assist or something like that and have good tackles in one game. But 65 minutes is what we expect. And is it worth it buying someone like this in the same position as Hosking, 80k less from Hosking's starting price? Probably. I think it can definitely work out. If you've got an easy way to get to him, sure. If you're using him as a downgrade from Hosking and you have like Barnett as well and you want to go Barnett up to Haas, then play on for sure. My question this week is it Starling or Nicholson? Which one's better? And I think I'm leaning to Starling at this point. Just because you haven't seen much from him. Adam Dewey. What's Adam doing? 496k. He's got the goal kicking. He's gone 43 and 50, which is great. 6 goals, 2 try assists, 2 line breaks, 2 line break assists as well. Defensively been good. There will be more games where he misses some more tackles. He had offloads last week. Run meters are pretty good. They will come up against harder opponents. Can we see him averaging 45? I think he's worth it if you can see a 45. If you can't see a 45 and you think it's like 42, 43, then it's probably a no. He's not owned by a lot. There's point of difference potential there. He's kicking them awesome. If you think the Tigers will keep going well, he should do well. Dolphins this week. There's plenty to like. There's a few things to worry about as well. But I think Dewey in general. Solid pick with a centre half duel. Does he help you next week for cover in centre? Maybe. So, yeah, Dewey's solid. Not a lot else to say. I think it can work. It can also just plod. It can also get injured too. All those things. Touch wood. Toby Sexton, 493. I did have to mention him because he has scored well in the past when he gets, some good kick meters. We do have to go back a little bit to games where he could be really dominant when he's not with the Dogs. And you see there are some games there, 380, 407 kick meters. He has 58, 61s. He also has 38s in there. He has 68, 61. Some of them with goals also. 67, 65, scoring tries, kicking some goals, 72, 71. He can do it, but do you want to pick someone that has maybe 4 weeks in the job that has to hit a 40, 47, you'd imagine, for it to be worth it per game? He saw his kick meters really improve last week, which was great. It was all in base stats. He could potentially get some attack in there. I see him as a pretty solid pick. Is it something that you want to jump into at 493? I'm not sure, but if you're thinking about it, I think he should do well for a month. They do have a bye though so he's probably got 3 weeks in the job. Then Burton should come back against the Rabbitohs, which means it's likely 3 weeks with the good extra good role. Is it enough? Maybe not. Jack Howarth at 478. He's priced at the 36 mark, which is getting higher after a really good 60 in round 1. It was against the Eels. This one's against the Penrith Panthers. I think, again, you can wait. He could easily hit a 23 or a 30 this week and only just beat his break even. And then things stabilize and it's like, I should have probably just waited anyway to see how things work. I think he can do well following that with the Storm having a great team and just he looks awesome. So I personally think wait, make your decision the next week. AJ Brimson, I am an owner and I personally wouldn't buy him this week. So I think you should do the same. You should employ the same advice. He's going to be up against Gagai. There should be some misses there for him. And hopefully he can get some attacking stats on that left-hand side with, Kaipi's Paul being out. They'll see Frizzell back to that side, which is just as good, I think. He's an awesome player. But Brimson, I think he's a hold, not a clear buy. I hope he does well. I hope we see some of the 60s that we saw here in other games there, and he can continue that 150, 200 kick meters as well, which we haven't seen him do a lot in his 5/8 slots. There's some games where he's up in over 100, and he usually goes well in those opportunities when he gets it. So there you go. Fun one, interesting one. Probably not buying this week. All right. Next one. Seb Kris, 472. People are asking about him. Had to mention it. He's had a career couple of games. We've seen him go in the 30s and in the 40s, but 50 and 57 with top tier performances, massive tackle breaks is out of character for him. And unfortunately, you've lost the chance to have really nice cash gains. Yes, he can. If he goes 50 again, he'll make some more, but he should go back down to earth. And he's priced at 35. He's gone up 62k already across the 2 weeks. So you may have missed the boat with him, even though their run is pretty solid for sure. So Tilly Tupanua at 466k. We have to mention him because he looks incredible right now. He did drop a footy, I think, with an opportunity to score last week as well. And so that could have pushed him to a 50 as well. The break even is around the 20 mark. It's okay. That part is the fine part. I think kick out, you're definitely missing. He's definitely missing the next 3. He could miss the one after their bye as well. So Tilly should be solid. I think he'll be better than what we saw from him last year. So there is worries around that for sure. But his running of the footy has been spectacular, and he'll get plenty of opportunities, even next to Bailey Hayward on that left-hand side. How's he going to go defensively? On the edge, we saw some misses last year. He comes up against some fun players like Lomax will be going against him. He has Nickera the following week. He has Dane Gagai the following week after that, running towards him. And I think he'll be fine, but price at 35, it's a bit of a hard task. 400k in round 1 would have been a little bit better for sure. Luke Metcalf, McGoat, 456. Could you buy him back? I was laughing at. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a tougher matchup this week, and I don't expect them to kick anywhere near 6 goals, get all the big try assists and tries that he did. The kick meters will be similar. The run meters will be similar. Tackle breaks and offloads, yeah, probably the same. I'm expecting somewhere in the mid-30s to 40, and if he gets that, then he makes a bit of cash, but he does stabilize. So I probably won't be buying Matt Goat back. Jesse Arthurs, people are talking about him. His base stats have been okay the last few, to be fair. 136, 147 run meters, but he's had a tremendous amount of attack, and Cowboys, Dolphins, Tigers would be the only reason you would purchase him this week. He's priced at 32, and you can see so many 20s and teens and low scores in his game. Last year, 12, 16, 24, 27. If you buy him and he does that, he doesn't actually make that much money for you, which can be very, very frustrating. So it's a no from me on Jesse Arthurs. Dane Laurie, the fun pick of the week, that's for sure. When he plays fullback in recent history, especially with the Panthers, he does really, really well. Usually it's in a later time frame, but in 2023 for the Tigers, he had a couple of good games to begin the year as well. 50, 48, and then a couple of mid-30s there at the start of 2022. So he only got a little bit of an opportunity in 23. And then 2024 last year, he had a 30 against the Dragons where they did get beat, 22-10, 70, 54, 55, 30 in 20 minutes, 59, and then a 59. As I said there, with 1 try, 2 try assists, 1 try saver, and 5 line break assists. So tackle breaks is where his bread's buttered, meters gains where his bread's buttered, and he's just in a good team. So I think you could definitely take a punt on Dane Laurie. The break even isn't tremendous for him, given this year he's had the 2 games off the bench. He's got pretty lucky. Casey McLean went down, and then Edwards went down. He came on and picked up 17 in 21 minutes against the Roosters in a game where they were getting beat up, especially at the back end. But he gets involved in everything. He had a kick defusal, a forced drop out, 2 tackle breaks, a couple of tackles, 90 metres already in 21 minutes. So he is a really, really good player. And I think you could take a flyer on him, but it's probably only going to be a 3-week play. Or a 2-week play could even be. And that helps you next week at minimum. So there's that. If you get him for the 4 weeks, Melbourne, Rabbitohs, Cowboys, Dolphins, I think it's worth it. If it's 2 weeks, it's not worth it, even though you get the cover for next week. Against Rabbitohs, he should score well also. If you get 3 weeks, I think it's a win. 4 is a big win. That's that. They could easily just hold Edwards back. Like groin, it takes a bit to get your performance back, so there's no point really risking him when you've got a ready-made good replacement in Laurie. It's not Edwards, but I think it could be fun. I'm tempted. We'll see how it goes. Harris Tavita, he's had a great start, 38 into 50, so you do have to consider him at under 400k. He's had 1 try assist, 1 line break assist. Tackle numbers have been good. Running the footy, kicking for 260 and 280 is great news for someone that is near 400k. I think he's a pretty solid pick, but the buy in round 5 is hurtful. And then Melbourne and Broncos following that. So you're buying him for a couple of weeks for the good cash gains, and then it gets dicey after that. Can he keep up doing good things? Potentially. Is he a good purchase? I think so. Is he a great purchase? Maybe not. Siwa Wong, 396, eh? Things have worked out pretty well for Wong over the first 2 games. He had the injury early to Radley. He got the 67 minutes, and then he played 80 in the second row in round 2. They do have 3 of their players back. So I doubt he plays massive minutes, but he did look pretty good running the footy last week and scored 55 against Panthers. So shout out to him on that one. Some people are a bit short on edges. There's a worry that Radley just moves out and plays edge in this one, and we've got Butcher to return also. So I think Wong, if you've missed out on him, he's gone up 52k. I think it's hard to buy him now, priced at 30. He could go, 38 or 40 for a couple of weeks there. But how exciting is it? I don't think it's massively exciting. Nawangani Tawase, 377k. He's had 3 games in the NRL, 37, 35, and 43. The worries at the moment are his meters gained at 118 and 74 last week. It was wild. He's had 2 offloads in each game. He's had 6 tackle breaks in total. Last week got 35 with a try assist, line break, and line break assist. How does that happen? For him to only get 35. So that's the worry. He's passed the really tough matchups and it gets a little bit easier for him. So he could definitely come out and do good things because he's got that awesome offload for tries and try assists usually, like you saw last week. I think he can definitely be close to a 40 guy, and I think he's a really solid wing fullback cover / center option this week. Probably one of the better ones. But how much upside does he have? Again, is it just because he's had a couple of tough matchups? Broncos, they got spanked, and then Panthers. For him to go 36 average in those 2, that's 8 points of value from where he's currently at. And he comes up against the Warriors this week. And then it's Titans, Rabbitohs before some tougher clashes again. So I think he's a really solid pick, and I wouldn't push anyone away from potentially buying him. And he's a really good wing fullback option if you wanted to sell Yongi as well, if you're done with him. But Tamale at 368k, he should be a priority selection this week. He got the 42. Yes, he had the try save, a turnover tackle, the try and the line break. It just wasn't going out his way as much as it was. And they weren't kicking down to him as much either. But now that they've got Xavier Savage returning, I'm not sure if they're going to kick it to Savage for the kick returns, given how well he played in round 1. But it was a low meters gained week for him. That should improve, and he can get some more tackle breaks as well to get his base back up. He also missed 3 tackles, which he might not do on a regular basis, and had a penalty. So Tamale, I think, is a really good guy to own still. Priced at 27. Similar to Mark, I think he's probably slightly better than Mark at this point. Ownership level is high as well. So if you want the pod play, go Mark. If you don't, go Savelio. This week, Yongi, all right, tough one with him. Tough start, 27 and 17. Even had a try saver last week. He's getting involved in plenty. He's missing lots of tackles. There's errors, there's penalties. The team sucks, basically. And that's where it's hard for him to see him go really well. But priced at 25, there's not a heap of downside either. If he comes out and scores well, plays well, he gets 40 odd, and he'll make some cash, and he'll continue to build on that. But I understand if you want to sell, it's just hard when you've got guys like Lucas, Marzu, Ponga Sharp, all in your wing fullback or centre, and you're probably going to need cover next week. So it's hard to sell Yongi based off all of that. Tom Duffy, 39 into a 25. All in base, missed some tackles last week, hardly running the footy, gets dropped. Makes it tough. He's an easy guy to sell. I would sell him over Hubner for sure. So I've got Hubner in the hold, as you won't see him in this video. And Duffy is the guy to move on. Can you go to Stafford Toa? Yes. That's the guy that's next up on the list. He looked awesome in attack. 8 tackle breaks. He's got the try and the try assist. He still had some errors and a penalty and 2 missed tackles. So that's, neg 10. And he's still got 56. So he looked like a focal point in attack, and he should be able to do okay against guys like Avarillo or Bostock and Junior Tupou. I think it's going to be a fun side for them to target. And then it's the Warriors the week after, which will be fine as well. It's, the left-hand side, which is okay. Before Broncos the following week, which, defensively on that left-hand side, they're not perfectly great. So a very, very simple target this week, Stafford Toa, and Tom Duffy to Toa will be a very, very highly sought-after trade. Samani, 40 for him in the 80 minutes. He looked awesome. Tackle busting galore, 194 meters. The worry with him is going to be around who they select soon. Adokar's coming back. They've got Bailey Simonson on the return. It's unlikely they keep their spot, Samrani and co, longer term. So that's where the worry is. But I think he can score well and he can make some cash. So he was 230 coming into us. He's 254. He'll make money this week if he plays. But Adokar is on the extended bench and could take the spot straight away. Tony Francis at 250k. He's got almost a 40 average in Queensland Cup. The worry with that, though, is that he was in a terrific side, a top 4 side, a winning formula side for sure. And yes, he's got some toe. He can run well. He got 40 meters in 11 minutes in round 23 last year off the bench, and he also had a try and 81 meters in round 12. He did miss 4 tackles that game and had an error. So he definitely has that in his game. He has tackle breaks in his game. He's a good runner. The left-hand side is fun, but he's no AKP who can just kind of make it out of nothing. I think he'll be solid. It looks like he got about 4 weeks, potentially 5 or 6 on that left wing, and could definitely be a good pick. I'm worried if he's going to, does he keep his job longer term if he doesn't play super well? Maybe, maybe not. They've got Carter Gordon waiting in the wings who could easily come in. And yeah, there's definitely some worries, but as a cash out down value, it's not going to absolutely kill you. We had guys like Blaze Talangi we thought were going to lock in as good options and didn't work out last year for the beginning. So yeah, it can happen. Rob Darby, I would go Francis over Darby just because they have guys like Semi Valame on the list and the Cowboys suck. And they play Broncos into Canberra into Penrith. So he can get some base stats, he can get some good run meters, but he was very, very poor in their trial as well. We've got to think back to that. And how much attack is he actually going to get on that right-hand side against good teams? And finally, we finish things off with Riley Smith at 249. And a big thanks to everyone who's checked out this video. If you want some one-on-one advice and everything like that, please go ahead to the description. Get in that private group. It's $35 for the whole season from here. Get advice from me, get advice from all the legends in the crew, and have a great game day experience that you might not get in other areas. A 249 for Riley, 53 and 55 minutes the last 2 weeks. Has had some misses, has had some errors, hasn't run the footy much, but they've hardly had the ball. And I think is a really solid guy to buy if you want the cash down. It's Stafford Toa, then it's Riley Smith, in my opinion, ranking-wise. And you should see him hit the 30s pretty regularly. In price at 19, there's 10 plus points of value if he's playing this role. And there is worries about him not playing the 50-odd minutes, especially starting off the bench. But if this happens longer term, then sweet. If it doesn't happen, then there are a few worries as to how good he can score. He could also increase the minutes as well if they decide to just lock and load with him and work for the future. But I think playing him 55 off the bench, taking the sting out of the game early, is probably a good play. And if he can get the odd attacking stat as they start to improve, hopefully they improve, then that could be cool. Kai O'Donnell, another one is another one on the list for people to think about. Nanai's on the bench back this week, and you won't see Bateman losing his spot. I can't see Kai playing any more than sort of 60 minutes this week, but yeah, that's where you're at with Cowboys. I don't really want to chase them. Jackson Purdue, if you want to sell him, I understand. Probably you're selling Duffy first, given he's lost his spot in the side. But that's, the other thoughts around that. Oren Keeley keeps his spot. Finna Firiaki on the reserves right now. He's going to come back pretty soon. Nico Hines potentially doesn't goal kick, but I still think you hold him against the Bunnies this week and play him. So yeah, that's probably it. I think for this buy, hold, sell, we'll do some more stuff if we get some more information. We've got my team's analysis. We'll go through all those later. I'll go through it tonight or tomorrow, and we'll get going with that. So that's going to be good fun. You're also going to see the JBFA private crew VIPs go in and do a team video tonight, which is going to be plenty of fun. And going through their squads and any questions that they have. That's going to be every 3 weeks on the channel. So we'll see how that one plays out tonight. And we'll sort that out. But thanks so much for being here. Please subscribe, follow along on podcast, and I hope you have a cracking Wednesday afternoon.